Hi guys, thanks for coming back and joining me for another video. So, lots to talk about on this one. As promised, this is the video to do with Paris Hilton and to do with beauty and the bimbo. And Meghan, as always, has managed to dig herself into more holes, really. She literally has a shovel attached to her permanently, and she gets called out now by so many people, and it's entertaining at this point. Lots of you say in the comments, I love the fact that you make this all, entertaining when we talk about Harry and Meghan. And that's the thing. You don't need to be angry with them. You don't need to let things upset you about them, because there's so many real things happening in the world that are upsetting on a regular basis. So with anything with Harry and Meghan, they've become such a joke. This is why I laugh about them. This is why I see an entertaining side to them, because the jokes literally write themselves with the couple. So let's just get straight into it. The first 10 minutes was Meghan talking about Mimi. Yes, her favourite subject, of course. So there she is talking about how this interview was the one she was most nervous of. She's obviously over Mariah Carey now. She's lost a fangirl, didn't she, Mariah, because she dared to call Meghan a diva. The shame, the horror of it all. But Meghan goes on to explain how Paris influenced her life as she was growing up, as she was a young girl navigating life. Mimi, 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 me. This would go a long way in explaining why Meghan thought having a licence plate saying classy girl was a good idea when she was a teenager. At this point, I would say with archetypes that Meghan might as well just get people, guests, to interview her, because that's basically what happens. So whilst Meghan is obviously busy talking about how Paris, affected Meghan's life, she does actually confess something at the beginning of the podcast, and that is that Meghan actually had a preconceived image of what she thought Paris Hilton was going to be like. Yes, Meghan, holier than thou Markle, had actually judged Paris Hilton from what she'd read about her and watched on TV. But if anyone dares to formulate an opinion of what Meghan might actually be like through TV or things that they've read about or her interviews, they are automatically labelled misogynistic and racist. And again, it's just the utter hypocrisy of it. Now, with like all of her podcasts, we hear less about Paris Hilton in the fallout from it actually being aired and more to do with what Meghan said now. Now, this particular episode seems to have revolved around her 34 episodes that she did as a briefcase girl on Deal or No Deal. She's made it very clear that she was reduced to feel little more than a bimbo. She was valued only for her looks and not her brains. As Megyn Kelly pointed out, what did she think? They were actually going to give her nuclear codes to hold on to? It's not like she's on some university challenge or QI. She was a briefcase girl. You're there to be part of the entertainment, to smile and to wave and to look glamorous. Now, Whoopi Goldberg, of all people, has actually called Meghan out on this. Now, I say this because Whoopi is very, very liberal. She's been very quick to jump onto the only people that criticise Meghan is because of racism. But she actually turns around and defends all of the other women that have modelled on Deal or No Deal. And she said that it's an acting gig. It's what you do. You have a choice. If you sign up to an acting role, that's it. You are playing a character. If they want you to dress basically as a clown and stick a big red nose on the end of your face, it's what you do. It's a gig. There are so many women that would have been grateful to have taken that role instead of Meghan. And there were so many women that did actually stand on that stage time and time again for many more episodes that are incredibly grateful for the opportunities that it gave them. Whoopi goes on to say that if you felt objectified, then that's your problem, that's your issue, that's how you perceived it. But for Meghan to throw a generalisation across all of the other women that were there, in a way, she's almost calling them all bimbos as well. At the end of the day, it's a modelling job. Like the ring girls that hold the cards at boxing matches, like the grid girls that we used to see at Formula One, now banned. But there's so many events where you have pretty girls that model and walk around and they flirt and they smile and they wave. Their job is to be there and to look glamorous. Now, Meghan is part of the problem here. Where I said about the grid girls, that position actually got taken away from girls because too many people complained it was sexist, it was misogynistic, it was sexualizing women. There are plenty of women out there, take OnlyFans for example, that are more than happy to take a paycheck for being proud of their bodies, to want to be able to walk around in underwear and pose and wave and flirt. There are lots of women out there that are more than happy to do this. Go on Instagram for a second, you will see lots of them. There is nothing wrong with this. They are not being degraded. They are choosing to do this. And people like Meghan ruin it for other women complaining about this because they have an issue. It's unfair to all of the other people and women that take part that do not have an issue. You're taking away something that they enjoyed. And let's be honest, 34 episodes Meghan appeared on. If it was that horrific and awful, why did you stay for 34 episodes? Now, she's been caught out lying here as well. There have been several former briefcase girls that have come forward, and I love it. Meghan said that she was forced, like all of the other girls, to line up with all these different stations. They had to get false eyelashes, hair extensions. They had to go get spray tans. They had to go have their bras stuffed. It was a cookie cutter image that they all had to follow. Let's be honest here. When you see a lot of women on shows, even talk shows, they've got hair extensions in, they wear makeup, they've got false eyelashes. I don't know many women now that don't wear false eyelashes when they go out on a night out. It gives you that extra edge. When you're on stage or you are in theatre or you are literally in a TV studio, you've got harsh lighting. So they do your makeup a lot darker. It's the same as if you've ever been for a glamorous photo shoot. I did one. I'll dig it up one time. It's the most humiliating photographs ever. I'll give you a laugh. But I was 18. They slapped enough makeup on me. I looked like a drag queen. But when the photos came out, as cringy as they were, my skin pretty much looked like a normal colour, but you get where I'm going with it. And the most hypocritical thing about Meghan actually slagging this off like it was an awful thing, Meghan has recently done a photo shoot, like I spoke about in my last video for the Variety magazine. Countless photo shoots. She appears on stage at every given opportunity. When she turned up at the Intrepid Awards, you telling me that girl has not got a spray tan on? Meghan spray tans. Meghan wears false eyelashes. You often see photographs of Meghan where she has got her eyelashes clogged up with dried glue. So she's spray tan. She quite clearly wears hair extensions. She has clip-ins, she has weaves, she wears wigs. Lots of women do, and it's not a racial thing before anyone goes, nee, 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 nee. I'm so bored of it. But it's just factual. Meghan is wearing other women's hair a lot of the time in these photo shoots. So for her to be saying that Deal or No Deal was objectifying them and forcing them to do something that she herself does now. Now, as I said, 3 former briefcase girls have come forward. We have got Lisa Gleave, who was briefcase number 3, Patricia Cara, who was briefcase number 9, and then Claudia Jordan, briefcase number 1. All of these women have said that they were not objectified, they were not forced into doing anything, that they were treated brilliantly by the staff, that it gave them great opportunities, that they were grateful for it, that they were aired on TV in front of 13 million people at night. They were paid $800 per episode, sometimes filming several episodes per week. It was a step on the ladder for them. But for Meghan to say all the girls were there purely because of their looks, there was no substance, that she is thankful for the job, but it didn't make her feel smart. I ended up quitting the show because I was so much more than being objectified on stage. I'm sorry, again, this is offensive to all of the other women because she's basically going, I was smart enough to walk away. I didn't want to be objectified. I was better than what they were doing to all of those women on the show, so I walked after 34 episodes. I needed to be valued for my brains, but all of the other girls stayed. That is why Meghan pisses off so many people. She just naturally, as I said, it's that jellyfish. She can't even just say something about herself without dragging everyone else into her kind of destructive, let's set fire to it because I don't agree with it anymore. I'm too good for that show, so now I'm going to slag it off to the ground. So Meghan makes it very clear that she was a smart girl. She brings up her internship that she did in Argentina. Thinking back to my time working as an intern at the US Embassy and being in the motorcade with the Secretary of Treasury and being valued for my brain. Well, I'm going to bring a few things to your attention if you're not already aware. Meghan got a ride in the motorcade because it was her 21st birthday and it was a bit of a treat. Knowing Meghan and the way that she's flirted with everyone, I'd imagine that she might have asked, because it's my birthday, can I? Secondly, she was an intern who failed her exams. She was there for 6 weeks. Now, I'm not stupid. She was there as an office junior. She would have done filing, answering the phone, very, very basic office junior roles. Now, another thing as well, her uncle Mike Markle was the one that got her this job. Meghan didn't get it on merit. Meghan did not get suddenly flown out to Argentina when she finished Northwestern because she was so super smart. Her uncle, who was a former US diplomat, arranged it for her. The same uncle she did not invite to her wedding in the UK with Prince Harry. The same uncle that she's never once thanked for the opportunity. And the same uncle that sadly died last year. She completely cut him off and she didn't even acknowledge his death. And that's pretty harsh. That's her second uncle that's died, because one of her uncles on her mother's side died. Again, that was close to Meghan, that she never even bothered sending so much as a condolences card. As for Meghan's superior intelligence, as she is definitely making it very clear on this podcast, she's super, super smart, didn't you know? She never progressed with her studies. She left Northwestern. Why didn't she continue her studies? Why, in between acting jobs and acting roles, she was living off her dad's money, then she lived off her boyfriend's money, then she lived off Trevor's money, and eventually married Trevor, to soon divorce him once she got Suits. So Meghan had a lot of free time in between her occasional walk-on parts that she managed to get in really classy acting roles, as I'll come to shortly. When you think of child actress Natalie Portman, she was in demand from a child. She graduated from Harvard with a psychology degree. What about Mayim Bialik, who was a massive childhood star in Blossom, and then she went on as Amy Farrah Fowler in Big Bang Theory. She's got a PhD, she's a neuroscientist, super brainy. Lupita Nyong'o, she's got a master's degree in acting from Yale. Emma Watson, Jennifer Connelly, the list goes on and on of all of these actresses that have brains and then continued their studies. As I said, it's not like Meghan went on to study law or the sciences or engineering. What did she actually do with all of her free time? Meghan talks down about her time on Deal or No Deal, but let's talk about some of her acting roles. Bearing in mind that Meghan says that she was sexualised, forced into objectification when she was a briefcase girl. She was a hot girl in A Lot Like Love. She did a blowjob scene in Beverly Hills 90210, which was 2 years after Deal or No Deal. What about her role on CSI? This little number, she was a sexy maid, but you know, this is Meghan that doesn't like to be sexualised. What about the Burger Grill advert for a men's magazine in 2013? This is one of the most cringe-worthy things I have ever seen. Meghan licking her thumbs, seductively stripping off her shirt, showing her bra, grilling a burger like she's starring in some sort of cheap porno. Random Encounters, another film that she did. Here she is crawling up an actor, stripping him down for, well, I guess we can all guess what Meghan was up to in this one. What about when she played, I'm going to say the word, a tarty barmaid in Get Him to the Greek? She's played really cheap female roles, and I say cheap. Take Suits. Let's be honest, she was little more than a bit of eye candy. She was a side actress. She was a love interest to the main character. She was a bit of fluff. Yes, of course she was acting, but it's massively hypocritical to trash talk a show for being degrading to women when her acting roles are all about objectifying and sexualising women. She is playing little more than trampy acting roles. And yes, trampy, that is a word. Maybe Meghan could use that in one of her archetypes. But let's be honest, she wasn't picked for those roles for her brains or indeed her acting abilities, was she? And I would say Deal or No Deal was actually possibly one of the classiest roles she's ever played in her life. This is why Meghan rubs people up the wrong way. She's not grateful for any opportunity she's ever had in her entire life. And not only is she not grateful, now that she's holier than thou, she's super important, she's super special, she looks back down her nose at every job that ever gave her an opportunity. And I'm sorry, she's looking down her nose at all of these women that have done and continue to do Deal or No Deal. Why has she got to tarnish it? Why has she got to trash it? Why couldn't she have just gone, it wasn't for me, I chose to walk away, I just wanted to do different things. No, she's got to pour petrol on it and set fire to it for everyone else. And I'm really glad that other girls have come out of the woodwork, well, women now, and turned around and said, that's not true, she's lying, they treated us brilliantly. So why is Meghan coming for deal or no deal? What did they do to her, apart from give her a leg up in the industry? It might have something to do with the host Howie Mandel, who once was very honest and said he didn't remember Meghan. He said in an interview, I'm going to be totally honest with you, I don't remember Meghan. I don't. I saw her picture when she became a duchess or she got engaged, and I asked, she was a deal or no deal model? What number? She's a young lady with a lot of baggage. So I can imagine at that moment, Meghan got her little black book of revenge out and wrote Howie underscored. This is the thing, I do think it comes down to a weird narcissistic revenge. Meghan is angry at the whole of Hollywood that she was never accepted. So she is now going back and getting revenge one podcast at a time at anyone who's ever said anything even remotely critical about her, doesn't remember her, because let's be honest, her acting roles were not memorable. So like I said, Meghan is using her podcast for revenge. She's going scorched earth on anyone who she feels has wronged her. And I can imagine that list. Oh, there's going to be a lot of podcasts, isn't there? Are we ready for more podcasts? I really hope Spotify do not renew this for another season. Now, as for Paris, as I said, she's an interesting guest. I used to really enjoy watching that show. I can look back now and I think of what was I thinking? But I was like 14, 15 years old. But Paris was incredibly open. She was talking about how hard it was for her at school. And she spoke about how she actually built her bimbo character up, her dumb blonde personality, as self-preservation to get her through school. And this, obviously, this caricature of Paris was built up and it worked in her favour. And she was picked up with studios, and her and her best friend Nicole Richie then became The Simple Life. They played on the caricatures of Nicole Richie being naughty and Paris being the ditzy blonde. Now, let's be honest, both girls were born into unimaginable wealth, Lionel Richie and the Hiltons. I mean, the girls didn't want for anything. They were born with a silver spoon in their mouth as such. They could have walked away at any moment. They didn't need to do it for recognition. They didn't need to do it for money. The girls did it because they enjoyed it at the time. They were having fun. But this isn't good enough for Meghan. She has got to trash it. Paris was forced into it. She was objectified. Studios put pressure. And it's just this negative, moan. Paris made a fortune out of playing a dumb blonde. And so did Dolly Parton. But when you look at her, she embraces it. She is one of my most favourite women in the entire world. I do love music. I grew up on it because of my mother. What she does for charity, she's a philanthropist. I really want to go to Dollywood. This is one of my bucket list things. But she made her fortune and built up a caricature of herself while still it being her personality. She embraces it. One of her most famous sayings is, it took a lot of money to look this cheap, and I love her for it. Now, the whole idea of archetypes was to talk about things that held women back, stereotypes that held women back, words and things that were said. And Meghan's guests, I've said this before, they are not women that were held back in life. Look at them. They're all super rich, super successful. These are women that embraced the stereotype. They used it to their advantage. They empowered the words and the insults to be something positive and part of their mega million empire. Now, Paris does get very serious, and she has revealed in her own show that's coming out soon, that's probably why she's on there contractually, but she speaks about she had a very, very disgusting time at school. It's coming out that she had a lot of abuse, physical and sexual, and she had a very hard time with the other girls there. So it's a very, very sad and emotional and a very deep story. There's no trigger warning this time because it's Paris being very deep. But Meghan has to have a sob story of her own. She's got to make it about Mimi. And this is where the sexualization, objectification came in with the deal or no deal. How can you even try and compare you taking an acting role and having to wear false eyelashes and a spray tan to the obvious trauma that Paris went through at school? Meghan is truly so self-absorbed. She could win an Oscar for it. It'd be the only Oscar that she'd ever win in her life. The issue with this podcast and my issue with Meghan, it's this constant blame culture, which I think is damaging society. It's this cancel culture that Meghan seems hell-bent on being the poster child for. She never takes responsibility for any of her actions or any of her choices and decisions that she's made. It's always continuously she was forced, she was coerced, she was pressured into everything. Nothing was their choice. There's no responsibility that could possibly fall at her door. When it goes wrong or it isn't what she wanted, there has to be some deep, dark story behind it where Meghan comes out this victim. Going on about the objectification and sexualisation of being on Deal or No Deal and what she was forced and coerced into doing, as with all of these other stories that are coming out about Meghan. When you look at the acting roles, the choices that she made, these roles were not picked for her brains and her intellect, or indeed, as I said, her acting abilities. But one thing I love about the internet, which Meghan seems to forget, once it's out there, and Meghan, for us, as we know, likes continuously talking. So I'm going to read you a quote direct from the horse's mouth, talking about acting. This is when she first got signed up to Suits, when she was being flown around and doing photo calls. She was super excited about this. "This is part of the job and it's effing awesome. Flashing those pearly whites and working the carpet with your sexy little body is part of the job description, and you jumped on board when you signed that dotted line." So Meghan is basically saying, it's part of the job, darling, shake your sexy little body. Meghan was also the author of the Working Actress blog that suddenly evaporated once she got her claim to fame on Suits, but after Deal or No Deal, where she encouraged her readers to read the blog because it was all about sex, sex, sex and more sex, and to read about her magical boobs. Yep, straight from the horse's mouth. God love the internet. It's completely hypocritical, and as I said, the jokes keep on writing themselves. So I will be back with you next week, no doubt, with more jokes and news on the other royals. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye.
If you would like to buy me a coffee, please go to my About page and click the link. Love, Taz.